Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii and sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists create connectivity solutions that change the way we work, live, and play. Like Kunle, a Comcast engineer who is focused on revolutionizing the in-home Wi-Fi experience today and for the next generation. Kunle builds powerful Xfinity Wi-Fi devices that deliver a fast, reliable connection with capacity to connect hundreds of high-bandwidth devices at once and next-level latency for the applications of the future, like augmented and virtual reality and cloud gaming. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com/Wi-Fi.
This is VSiN Daily Morning Bets. Here is your host, Josh Applebaum.
Welcome in. It is VSiN Morning Daily Bets for Wednesday, September 20th. In case you missed it yesterday on the podcast feed, I'm Ben Wilson in for our normal host, Josh Applebaum, Tuesdays and Wednesday mornings. If you listened to the show yesterday, it was a successful, at least a first crack at a best bet of the day as the Toronto Blue Jays take down the New York Yankees, pretty much going away, even though the market ultimately moved against us, not tremendously, but by a few cents. Yankees did end up closing a short favorite after that had flipped overnight, flipped back again to the Yankees, but we were able to get there on the right side with the Blue Jays 7-1. We'll try to do that again here on the Wednesday shows. We'll focus really on Wednesdays for the general card of the day. We'll go into our games of the day. Today I've got two to keep track of in Major League Baseball. We'll also continue our week-long look at the NFL betting market. There were a couple of significant moves that we saw late in the day on Tuesday, and so if you're now waking up on a Wednesday and you're noticing some different numbers, want to provide some context for that, how it can be actionable towards a bet going into Week 3 in the NFL. Let's start, though, with our game of the night.
Game of the night.
It is really not a game of the night. It's a game of the day. We have a bunch of day baseball on this Wednesday, actually starting pretty early, 12:20 p.m. Eastern time in Atlanta between the Phillies and Braves. I'm paying attention to a game with big implications in the AL, not only the wild card, but also divisional races. The Baltimore Orioles and Kyle Bradish looking to pull off the sweep against Christian Javier and the Houston Astros. This, for my money, most intriguing matchup of the day in the Major League Baseball card. Orioles have been one of the best road teams in baseball, 50-26 away from Camden Yards, 2.5-game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays as we go down the home stretch of the MLB season. And this AL West division, it's been just unbelievable to watch over the last month. Astros half-game lead over both the Texas Rangers and Seattle Mariners, who are each tied right now for the third and final wild card spot in the AL. What's interesting is the Astros have actually really struggled at home. They've been very good away from Minute Maid Park, 46-29, but 38-39, just a dismal home record for a team of the ilk of the Houston Astros. What we've seen overnight, not a ton of movement, but a little bit of action toward the underdog in Bradish, who has been really, really solid. His last start struggled a little bit. It actually snapped a streak of 7 straight starts, allowing 3 earned runs or less. So Bradish in his second full Major League season has been really, really good. 3.12 ERA. Advanced stats suggest he's, for the most part, earned that. 3.62 expected fielding independent pitching. Has done a lot better this year with his command, cutting down his walks per 9 innings by nearly 1 per 9, down to 2.3 of the free passes per 9 innings. And so it makes sense that bettors are looking at how great Baltimore's been on the road. They've won the first 2 games of this set in Houston. and how the Astros traditionally have struggled at home in Minute Maid Park. And you're getting a move there toward the dog. Astros opening minus 120. Moving overnight about 5 cents at DraftKings. Astros minus 115. Orioles minus 105 on the other side. If there's a direction I'd look, it's actually to the under here. Total of 9. That is not budged at all from the original opening number as we go into the overnight hours. But you look at where this series has been so far, it's been all offense. 15 runs on Monday in game 1. 14 runs on Tuesday in game number 2. I'd be willing to bet in a pretty good pitching matchup, even though Christian Javier has had his worst career season so far this year. Javier, I've noticed a little bit better from a command perspective. That's really what's done him in. If you look at the season-long numbers for Christian Javier, up to a 4.74 ERA after being basically sub-360 each of his first 3 full major league seasons, including 2.54 a season ago. But it's a really poor walk per 9 rate. It's well over 3, and he tends to get himself into a lot of trouble when he's giving free base runners. And as a result, this year he's had his worst strand rate of his career, 72% strand rate when you have runners on base. So a lot of those runners he's putting on via the free passes are them coming around to score. But I've noticed over the last 3 starts, you look at Javier, only 4 walks over the last 15 innings. That's not amazing by any means, but to me, that's a sign of progress. And in 2 of those 3 starts, he's walked either 1 or 0 batters in that sense. So in a getaway day game where you really feel like for both of these pitching staffs, they've been rocked early on in this series, I do expect a bounce back toward the mean just from an overall pitching standpoint. Would look to the under in Baltimore and Houston. That is our game of the day.
Best of the rest.
Meanwhile, time for our best of the rest on the baseball card for Wednesday. We'll transition over to the National League. It is the San Francisco Giants and the Arizona Diamondbacks. You really have to feel at this point like the Giants are basically at the end of the line here. This is the last stand for a team that has continued to scuffle since the All-Star break. Now 3 games back at the Chicago Cubs for the final wildcard spot in the National League. You have Chicago a half game ahead of Miami, a game ahead of Cincinnati, and then 3 ahead of San Francisco, while the Arizona Diamondbacks a half game in front of the Cubs for that second wildcard spot. Got the better of San Francisco in a short 2-game set from Chase Field. 8-4 win on Tuesday, and we get another great pitching matchup. Merrill Kelly for the Diamondbacks against Logan Webb of the Giants. This is a spot, though, where I am willing to take a stab on I admit, a very underwhelming San Francisco team over the better part of the last month or 2. If there's been one consistent amidst a very up and down and sort of unpredictable San Francisco Giants team, it is Logan Webb, a guy who is at 10-12. Don't let the record deceive you, though. He's been a guy who's not had much run support all season, 3.31 ERA, even better peripheral numbers, advanced stats with a 2.98 expected fielding independent pitching. And you get a situation where I'll be really interested to see how Merrill Kelly performs after getting crushed his last time out at Citi Field against the Mets. Gave up 7 earned across 5 innings. He's started to be, at least the second half of the year, more of a boomer bust guy. He's had a couple of outings where he's blown up, giving up 7 earned runs. And for all the Giants' general struggles as a team, over the last 30 days, 11th out of the 30 teams in Major League Baseball in overall WRC+. It is a team that has been able to consistently hit. It's just putting it all together and get consistent pitching. But when you had the one consistent pitcher the Giants do have, that's Logan Webb, and I like the spot here. The only other time that Merrill Kelly faced the San Francisco Giants this season as a member of the Diamondbacks, back on June 24th, he was tagged for 10 hits, second most hits in a single outing he's given up all year. 5 earned runs, 7 runs total, and only struck out 2 in 5 innings. We have seen some markets move in favor of the Giants overnight tonight. This opened minus 115 towards Merrill Kelly and the Diamondbacks. Some books already moving a few cents down toward the underdog. San Francisco Giants opened minus 105. And interestingly, DraftKings has seen a pretty big, at least overnight wave of action come in on San Francisco. Big in the sense that it's been enough to flip the favorites here. DraftKings, the first book to flip favorites, go to San Francisco minus 112 with Arizona minus 108 on the other side. This is one of your lowest totals of the day. Another day game, 3:40 Eastern, 12:40 on the West Coast. So you do have a lower total here, 7.5 with 2 aces going together. But for all those reasons I mentioned, do like Logan Webb and the San Francisco Giants. You can find the best number in the market right now trading here at about minus 102, the best number I see. And if you're able to find some shops that do the the traditional 10-cent baseball lines. I realize those are becoming fewer and fewer, but you can find a plus 105. That's not super widely available, but there are some stray plus 105s out there on San Francisco in the market. We'll take a break, wrap up the show next with some NFL line movement. 2 games in particular I want to discuss, games that move late on Tuesday. What does it mean for week 3 in the NFL? That's coming up next. All right, before we go on this edition of VSiN Morning Daily Bets, I want to take a look at 2 games in particular in the NFL week 3 betting market that have moved over the last 24 hours since we last recorded for the Tuesday show. One game in particular I really believe is going to be an optimal survivor usage game in week 3 in the NFL, and that is the Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars. In the last 24 hours, a significant move up for the host Jaguars, who are coming off a 17-9 loss at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. Jaguars, though, now in the market at DraftKings all the way up to 9.5. This was a look ahead of Jags -7 against the Texans at home, reopened 7.5, at least later in the week. And we then saw this get up to 8.5 by Monday. And then over the last 24 hours, a move of a full point. And we're actually seeing this creep up to now 10 at a number of books. I even see one prominent offshore book up to 10.5. So I certainly expect this line could go even further in favor of Jacksonville. You're kind of out of that 6-point teaser range now. If you wanted to bring the Jaguars down below a field goal, that is now no longer possible to do so. But let's think about why this is actually happening here. Houston, I didn't understand the move whatsoever, getting money towards them in the hours leading up to, really the days leading up to the week 2 game against Indianapolis. That despite quarterback C.J. Stroud on the injury report was questionable, even though he ultimately played and was healthy enough to play the entire game. But this is 4 offensive linemen of the 5 expected opening day starters for the Houston Texans who have all been injured and are all out right now. Really the only guy who even has a chance to come back this week is the left tackle and the de facto leader of that offensive line in Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. Missed last week with a knee injury. Joined Kenyon Green, the left guard. He's out on season-ending IR. Center Drew Scruggs, who's out on short-term IR. And right tackle Titus Howard, also on short-term IR. So this offensive line is a complete mess for Houston. And it's been borne out in the advanced stats. So far through 2 weeks, Houston giving up pressure at the 4th highest rate of any NFL team, a pressure rate on dropbacks for their young quarterback, C.J. Stroud, of, at this point, over 30%. They've been really bad, even just in the ESPN run block win rate as well. They're 21st out of the 32 teams, so certainly better than bottom 5, but it's not been a line that's been able to generate much of a push either from the run game perspective. You're now taking on a Jacksonville defense that surprisingly has looked really, really good. The expectations for the Jaguars was poor defense, really good offense, and the opposite has kind of been true through 2 weeks. Jaguars actually 5th in the league out of 32 teams in EPA per play, and that's with one of those 2 games being against the defending Super Bowl champions at home in the Kansas City Chiefs. It's why you're seeing a market move now up to 9.5, some books hitting 10. I'd say if you'd want to lay it with Jacksonville, the time to do it is now, because this is only going to keep moving up. Personally, when I just look at my raw power rating of these 2 teams coming into the week, I have Jacksonville in the realm of about a 10.5 point favorite before adjusting for the weekly injuries and the like that we'll see. So once we get over 10, that's certainly not going to be a game I have any interest in betting. I'm generally not someone who bets big favorites anyway in the NFL, but that is going to keep trending higher. I like this spot for Jacksonville as a survivor play, a team that I still believe has a lot of issues and flaws, yet you're getting Houston at their worst. An 0-2 team, completely disheveled on the offensive line. I didn't even mention both starting safeties, Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie, were injured last week and are questionable coming into this week's game. So that is one of the 2 line movements that I completely understand on Jacksonville, and that would be my best play from a survivor perspective. Take the Jaguars in week 3. The other big line movement, and this is one where I will go against the line move and use this to take a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers into teaser range. It is Sunday Night Football, Pittsburgh in Las Vegas against the Raiders. A whole lot of injury news now for Pittsburgh coming out of that crazy Monday night win over the Cleveland Browns, but it was not without its consequences. Safety Minkah Fitzpatrick left that game with a chest injury, had to be taken to the hospital. Luckily, he was released, ended up going he was back left ahead of the team, but Fitzpatrick, after the chest injury, he is firmly in that questionable camp. Joins now Cameron Hayward who the defensive end was placed on IR after week 1 amongst guys who are really big names on that Pittsburgh defense who are banged up. And you also saw Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver. He was placed on IR ahead of week 2 after being ruled out, getting the injury week 1 against San Francisco. So it's a bit of an injury mess right now for Pittsburgh. You've had back-to-back home games, short week, going on the road cross-country to Las Vegas. Yet, let's just keep in mind where Pittsburgh offensively, who has been objectively bad, what they are now getting on the other side of the ball. So Pittsburgh in the first 2 weeks of the season took on San Francisco at home, also took on, in this last game, Cleveland at home. Teams number 2 and 3 in defensive EPA per play through the first 2 weeks of the year. And eye test-wise, I think anybody would agree who's watched the NFL that those are 2 of the 5 best defenses right now in the NFL. Now you're getting Las Vegas on the road, a team that Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers had success against last year offensively moving the ball, won that game on Christmas night in Pittsburgh. Vegas, 31st in overall defensive EPA per play so far this year. Only the Chargers have been worse. So this naturally is a really good bounce-back spot for the Pittsburgh offense. I'm not willing yet to trust Las Vegas in the favorite role, especially in a game where there will be, 40,000 Pittsburgh Steelers fans with the terrible towels at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. So with this line move, I get it because of the injury standpoint from Pittsburgh. They're in a bad spot. But from Pick'em up to 2.5, that's an overreaction to me. I would have made this line before factoring in the injuries. I'd have Pittsburgh about a 1-point favorite. Look, maybe you downgrade them a point. See this at maybe a Pick'em. Early lines were in that Pick'em range. Some books were at Vegas -1. But to me, the move up to 2.5 is just too much. It's not warranted. And you can now tease Pittsburgh. This is a prime Wong teaser number. Tease the Steelers up through the 3, through the 7. You're getting 8.5 in a low total game of 43. That is definitely an angle I will look at, especially without much of a home field advantage, if any, for Las Vegas. 2 NFL games in particular that really stand out to me for what we'll see going ahead in week 3. Josh Applebaum, he is back tomorrow. He'll have a comprehensive breakdown of the Thursday night football game. In the meantime, again, you can see me Tuesdays and Wednesdays here on this feed. Morning Daily Bets will also be on our weekend shows, Live Bet Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Live Bet Sunday 3 to 7 p.m. Eastern, talking all things live college football and NFL. That'll do it for us. I'm Ben Wilson saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow again on the feed here on VSiN Morning Daily Bets.